Are you looking for entertainment for a fundraiser, outreach, youth night, date night, or for a conference? Does your team need a way to improve team camaraderie, confidence, and communication? Well, look at Well-Versed Comedy for a show, performance, or workshop. Well-Versed Comedy is Chicago's clean comedy team, and we're ready to serve you, your audience, or your organization. We've headlined our own shows at the Second City, at Getty's Comedy Club in Indianapolis, and started our own TV show called His Line. And we've raised over $5,000 for charity in just the last 2 years. We are now booking for your back-to-school bash, fundraiser, and even your holiday parties. Contact us today and let's see how a night of high-energy, clean, original, family-friendly comedy can make your next event memorable for all the right reasons. Connect with us on social media at WellVersedCMDY. That's at WellVersedCMDY, or online at wellversedcomedy.com. Wellversedcomedy.com. For booking information, email us improv at wellversedcomedy.com.
Welcome to the Gifts for Glory podcast, where we celebrate and promote men and women using their gifts for God's glory. Know someone who is making an impact for God's kingdom using their gifts, talents, and passions? We'd love to meet them. Send us an email at podcast@giftsforglory.com. That's podcast@gifts4glory.com. And now here is our host, Dave Ebert.
Hello, friends and neighbors, and welcome to the latest edition of Gifts for Glory. I'm Dave Ebert, and so excited to have you along with us as we just celebrate and promote men and women who use their gifts for God's glory. That's what the podcast is about. That's what we're really about with Gifts for Glory, is just honoring the different ways that God provides us with different gifts and talents and passions as a way to bless others, as a way to grow the kingdom, as a way to make a difference in this life. So we're really excited that you're with us today. And really excited to have, we have not one, but two guests. We have Michael and Naomi Rogers coming up in just a few minutes. We're going to be talking to them about acting, about performing, about His Story Productions, as well as their new tenure on Well-Versed Comedy. They joined us this spring, so we're going to talk about that as well coming up. But first, let's dive into our Devotions with Dave segment. Today, we're going to go with a little bit longer passages than we normally do. But I hope you'll be blessed by what I feel like the Lord has put on my heart. So going back to the Old Testament, to 1 Kings chapter 19, verse 4 starts, Then he went alone into the wilderness, talking about Elijah, the prophet. This is right after he had the big showdown between Elijah and the prophets of Baal. And so after this happens, Jezebel is, basically threatening his life. So we pick it up here in verse 4 again. Then he went alone to the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. I have had enough, Lord, he said. Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died. Then he lay down and slept under the broom tree. But as he was sleeping, an angel touched him and told him, Get up and eat. He looked around, and there beside his head was some bread baked on hot stones and a jar of water. So he ate and drank, and he lay down again. Then the angel of the Lord came again and touched him and said, Get up and eat some more, or the journey ahead of you will be too much for you. So he got up and ate and drank, and the food gave him enough strength to travel 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai, the mountain of God. Now here, this is one of the coolest stories in the Bible. Here is Elijah, who just saw this great victory of God over the prophets of Baal, supernatural things happening, people seeing the power of God at work. And then one person says, hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to get Elijah. And suddenly he forgets all that, and he despairs of life. And he's saying, God, go ahead, take me now. He's kind of pulling a red fox. Oh, it's a big one. Come take me now, Lord. Maybe not in that way, but still he had a completely different mind shift. And it shows the value and the importance of getting rest. God gave us the Sabbath. He invented the Sabbath for our benefit. And I'm guessing that in the midst of all this, Elijah had not taken a day to rest. So here he is under this broom tree. He finally gets a rest. He has a snack, and he finds the strength to continue his journey 40 days and 40 nights to Mount Sinai. So I just want to encourage you, take rest, find rest. This is where Elijah fell short in this moment. And once he got the rest, once he ate a little bit, then he was recharged and ready to go. So whenever you're feeling down, whether you feel run down, burnout, whatever it may be, and I'm preaching to myself right now because I'm in that mode of just feeling burnout and fatigued. Have a snack, get some rest, and then trust in the Lord. So that is my devotions with Dave segment for tonight. 1 Kings 19:4-8. I hope that inspires you to get some rest. Take the Sabbath. The Sabbath is so important. So yeah, that's 1 Kings 19:4-8. And now I want to bring on our guests, Michael and Naomi. We affectionately call her Nome. They joined Well-Versed Comedy in the early spring of 2022. They've worked together and performed together in various theaters, including the faith-based theater Overshadowed Theatrical Productions in Medinah. They also run His Story Productions, which is Naomi's one-woman show telling the story of Mary, Mother of Jesus. So we're going to talk about all that and Well-Versed and also hear their stories. So please welcome our guests, Michael and Naomi Rogers. Good evening.
Hey, Dave.
Hi, Dave. Hello, everyone.
So glad you guys are here, and we're just really excited to share your stories. You guys have been performing and working together on stage for many years. So tell us a little bit about your background and the things that you all have done in theater and in productions, either together and separate.
Well, I started a long time ago in children's theater with our community, with our city. We had a stage productions, and I was a part of that for 5 years. And so that's what really hooked me into theater, was doing that. And actually, it was way back in the kindergarten when for show and tell, my brother and I, we did a scene from Laugh-In. And
Wow.
so we did that for show and tell. And after that, it was like this acting thing. So then when this theater company started in our city, my brother and I, we went to auditions for Hansel and Gretel. And we didn't get picked as Hansel or Gretel, but we got picked as Children of the Forest. And so from then, I just had a love and a passion for theater. And so that was kind of my bump into it. And then it wasn't until I think you did some stuff.
I did nothing theatrical as a child. My family was more musical. So, we had sort of a family band where we would play music and entertain at the church and such. But I did nothing theatrical until
high school.
And,
Right.
and in high school, I was like an extra that stood behind the trees, and because I had no talent for this.
And in high school, I did no theater because I did drill team and dance team. So we couldn't do both because we had practices every day, Monday through Sunday, every day. So I couldn't do both of those. But it wasn't until, as we got married and we moved out here because we both lived in LA, then we lived in Indiana, that we found Overshadowed. And a friend of mine told me about Overshadowed Theatrical Productions. And so we went to go check them out, and we saw You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown. They were in a tiny, tiny Baptist church in Itasca, adorable, beautiful little church. And they put on this production, and I was like, wow, this is really great. And so then I called up Reba, who is the artistic director and founder of Overshadowed, and I was interested in auditioning for her next play, which is called Flame of Fire. And we had a little conversation, and she asked me about my background, and I told her, and she says, well, why don't you just be in the show? And I think I said something like, well, why don't I audition for you? So I did audition for her, and then that was back in 2006. So
yeah, we really we liked the fact that they were performing faith-based programs, and that one, The Flame of Fire, was about missionaries.
Yes.
So it was a great story. And I didn't get sucked into OTP until later. when I went there to help out with an audition, and
This was for
I ended up reading for somebody who was auditioning, and I read opposite of them just as a stand-in for Oliver. Next thing I know, I'm Mr. Bumble. So it was kind of funny the way that happened. But yeah, I did a couple of shows, and Naomi is the theatrical one.
Well, we our first show that we did together there was called Chitty Chitty Bang Bang, and it was awesome. He was the toy maker, and I was the child catcher. And so we had a really good time with that. He was the good guy, I was the bad gal, and so we
just
had
like
fun.
life, Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, what are you talking about?
So his story productions, when did that fit in? Did that start in LA, or was that a product
No,
here in Illinois?
that started out here. So it was actually in 2015. I was, we had homeschooled for 15 years, and after homeschooling our kids, who then went on to college, et cetera, and they're married, and they one of them has a family right now. We are grandparents.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that first-time grandparents as of a month ago, right?
Almost 3 weeks. Baby's 3 weeks old today. So his story started in 2015 in my mind, where I felt like the Lord gave me a download. You are to do call it His Story Productions, one woman show. You could do Mary, and then it just went on from there. And I took this download, and I was like, oh wow. But okay, God, but I'm involved with Overshadowed, and I'm doing other things, and we were also on their board at the time, and so we were highly involved. So that came down at like 2015, and we kind of stepped away from doing Overshadowed in 2016, and it wasn't until 2017 that we, kicked off. We had our first performance of Mary, the Mother of Jesus, out in Elgin, I believe, at a church there. And so it's a 35-minute presentation of the gospel seen through the eyes of Mary. And so in that, I break the fourth wall, and I'm, talking to the audience like I'm talking to you. And, but then Mary goes back and recounts, and it's in those moments of her past where she goes back and acts out different scenes. So I felt like when I thought, okay, I'm going to do Mary, she's my first one and has really been my only one, though I have other scripts for other women, but this is the only one that I've performed as Mary. I prayed to the Lord to please just give me inspiration to write the script, because we wanted it to be as biblically based as possible, everything that we knew of Mary. And then I gave it to my husband to edit, and I think I said something like, okay, now the Lord wrote this, so,
Tread lightly.
No pressure there.
So he edited it, and it and added music, and so it's a costume. We have some props and some small set pieces that we take to, and so we go to churches, social events, whoever will have us come, and I've got different versions of Mary depending upon who the audience is. So and so he comes and does all our tech. He runs the tech. So cool. We go out and minister together, and sometimes we've had to bring a friend to help us along with our sound equipment and things like that. But it's something that the Lord has allowed us to do together. So we've kind of been on a hiatus of that because of COVID, and everything's been shut down. And right. So we're hoping next year actually to get full back into it. So we'll see. It's up to the Lord. And I have a hard time marketing it. So, because, it's our own thing that we're doing. So it's hard to market yourself like that, to say,
Mhm.
hey, come book me type of thing.
Right.
That's real. I don't have a really hard time with that.
Well,
But
fine. I'll do that. For the people that are watching now or listening, find His Story Productions on Facebook at His Story Productions IL, as in Illinois. His Story Productions IL on Facebook, or online at hisstoryproductions.com. Book the show. Be a great show for your women's group, for maybe for even like a girls group, like like a youth, teenage
right,
girls like to show.
right. We even have a Christmas show,
A senior
a
show.
senior show, a whole congregational one as well. So it just kind of depends. But I think this Christmas we're taking off, and so we hope that next year, as the Lord leads,
Yeah.
we feel like He put it on our hearts, and if He put it on our hearts, we're going to do the best that we can. But the Lord is the one that's leading it and opening up the doors. So
since Christmas is Jesus' birth, are you pregnant as Mary during the Christmas show?
well, there is a baby Jesus, what looks like a baby Jesus, but then that baby Jesus turns into a headpiece for me. So there's that.
So
We got to be
A
creative.
little bit of sleight of hand.
yeah. I was obviously asking that in jest.
Oh,
so
well.
if you had to pick of the presentation of the performance, what is your favorite moment, or what is your favorite like segment of the show, or do you have a favorite?
Gosh, I think, well, there's some like comedic moments that I kind of enjoy, when Mary talks to the audience about Elizabeth, and Elizabeth being so old, how could she be pregnant? That kind of a thing. There's a little thing there. So that's fun because, the audience sees Mary's astonishment in that, and surprise. And so I think that that's a fun part. I think when Mary sees Jesus on the cross, that is,
Yeah,
it
that's
always
powerful.
gets me.
That's powerful. That's a part that always gets me, and probably my favorite part, because you can physically, see people reacting in the audience while she's portraying that, and you see people crying, and it's just really, it's a powerful moment in the show.
Do you have many things as far as props and set pieces, or is it only Naomi and a spotlight?
No, we have set pieces, period pieces as best we could. What I could get from Hobby Lobby that looks like
baskets and fruit and things like this, to some rugs, just to kind of dress the stage and give her something to work with, and
yeah, kind of like Mary's home,
to set as much as we can some sort of time period as well.
Well, I guess I was asking more like, is there like an actual crucifixion that you're looking at, or is it more just your response in discussing it?
Oh, just my response and how I'm seeing. And we have music too, so I think the music helps in that as well.
Right.
So
awesome. So for our listeners or our viewers, check out hisstoryproductions.com to find out more and how to bring this show to your church. And working with Naomi, I know she's a phenomenal performer, and you will be moved by this performance. So definitely check them out if you're looking for something. I would say book now if you want something for Good Friday or Easter, because I'm sure that's a hot date for this performance.
Yeah, around Mother's Day time, Easter time. That's it's kind of busy then.
Mhm.
So after all this, you guys auditioned in February of this year for Well-Versed Comedy.
Yes.
So how did you find us, and what inspired you to say, yeah, we'll go try this out?
Well, I think I found you on Facebook somehow. I don't know where I went, whatever, or maybe it was, I don't know. You know how Facebook has, maybe it was a sponsored ad or something, but I think I
Yeah.
found you a year ago or 2 years ago. I'm not sure, because I remember I wrote you a letter saying, hey, I'm interested, but I don't know if timing is right,
Yeah, that's
or
right.
something like that. So then I saw you guys were having, I think because we became Facebook friends,
Mm-hmm.
then it's like Dave's having auditions for Well-Versed Comedy. So I was thinking about it. I didn't say anything to him about it right away, because I was just like, is this something? Because I always thought, probably for the last, I don't know, 15 years or so, that probably 18 years, that improv would be so cool to do and to be a part of an improv team. So anyway, that just was kind of like locked away in there. And then when you had this, I thought, okay, we could try it. And
Well, she thought that she could try it,
Mm-hmm.
and my thought was, hey, I don't know where you're going. I don't know these
who
people
are
that
these
you've been
people?
talking with. So I
How
wanted to
far
go
away is it?
with her,
Mm-hmm.
just as a protection type of thing. And as it turned out, as we were going down there, she's like, hey, do you want to try out too? And I'm like,
Like, maybe you could try out too.
hey, that would be fun. Kind of like a fun date night, you know? So we just
That's
went
how
with the expectation of having a good time.
That's how we pegged it in our heads. Okay, this is the date night. If anything happens from it, cool. But if not, it was a great date night.
Yeah.
So
did it end up being both a great date night and something that else happened?
well, yeah. Hello.
Yeah. So so far, what have you guys felt like you've learned, or what have you most enjoyed about being immersed in improv?
Wow, it is 180 degrees from the world that I live in. I've always been more of an analytic, and I will say I'm a slow thinker. I need Prevagen. But it is something that is initially uncomfortable for me, but I'm learning that I can put myself out there. I can be a little silly, and that's okay. And I'm finding out that I'm having a great time, and
And you're
just
so
really
good.
enjoying it.
You're so good. See, normally with us, he's more of the quiet one. I'm more of the goofball. But I have found that he truly is the number one goofball. Way more than I ever am.
No,
Yeah.
I find that hard to believe.
Yeah. So it's been great fun to be able to do this together, for sure.
What's been the hardest part about improv?
Not for me, not being familiar with every game.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still learning all the games because there's so many games. So I think that's the hardest thing for me.
And I think for me, it's in letting go and just allowing things to unfold without a plan.
Yeah. It's very hard. I think that's harder for men more than anybody, because we like to have that semblance of control, and we're naturally like the leaders. And if we don't know what's going to happen next, it kind of takes us out of our natural wiring.
Yeah, you do make it look easy, though.
Yeah, you really do.
Years of practice and headshots with chairs. I spent 8 years worth of weekends in tights in front of a bunch of people in West Virginia, so I think I've pretty well destroyed any inhibition.
The WrestleMania guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Michael told me that about you before maybe you said it to the group or something, or he learned that about you before I did. And I'm like, well, you got to be kidding me, Dave, a wrestler? So it's pretty cool.
I was Big Boy Buddy Love, the East Coast largest athlete.
How did you come up with Buddy Love as a name?
When I was doing radio in West Virginia, and I was going under the name Big Daddy, and then my boss said, "Well, we can't let you use Big Daddy because that's one of our clients' nicknames, and he uses it for marketing. So let's come with something else." So in about 10 seconds, he went from Big Daddy to Big Boy to Big Boy Buddy Love. That's your name, Big Boy Buddy Love, and that was it. And so when I got into wrestling, I was like, well, I've already got a little bit of notoriety and star power from being on radio. So it's a no-brainer to just use the same gimmick. And that also helped cover up the fact that I was not really well trained at that point. I didn't know the lingo. I didn't know what you need to know in order to be a safe wrestler, but I knew how to entertain. So I was Big Boy Buddy Love, the DJ, and eventually I learned what I was doing, and I was never great, but I was good enough to entertain and keep the crowd interested. But yeah,
you have to break out the tapes one of these days.
There's a bunch of YouTube videos because we did a weekly TV show, so I'm on there quite a bunch as a commentator and as a wrestler. And the cool thing about wrestling is it's literally improv theater in the round. You've got crowd on all four sides. You're doing a scene live. You're feeding off your scene partner, which is your opponent. You're feeding off the audience. And if the match is going well, just like if a scene is going well, you let it breathe. If it's really stinking up the joint, you edit and get out quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And the cool thing is when I pick up a chair on stage now, it's not to hit anybody.
Thank you.
So Kelly, our guest from last week, is watching. She said she's seen His Story Productions. So powerful and intimate. Praise God. And I think she's commenting in reference to Michael's audition. And Michael then blew us away. He's so quick on stage and clever. Aww.
There's
That's
a
very
reason
nice.
you're
Thanks,
on my
Kelly.
team. You know what I'm saying? That's the reason we're married.
So we're going to segue over into what's my favorite part of each show, and this kind of the crux of why we do what we do with this podcast, and dive into your testimony, your story of how God found you, how you found God. So I traditionally go ladies first. So Naomi, tell us, did you grow up in a Christian home, or how did you find your relationship with Christ?
I grew up in a home I wouldn't say was necessarily Christian, but I prayed every night. I was taught how to pray. I was taught about Jesus, but I wasn't taught that Jesus is your savior in the sense of, and now have a relationship with him. It wasn't necessarily about a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so I had a friend named Lucinda who I think I was in the 5th or 6th grade, maybe. I remember being on the phone with her, and she was giving me the gospel message and telling me about Jesus and do I want to accept? And I said yes, but I didn't really know what I was fully accepting. It wasn't until, fast forward, I'm on the drill team and I'm a leader in the drill team, and our choreographer would meet with the leaders after practice, and we would go to, as it was, Carl's Jr. And so a few times, during the week, we would go and hang out at Carl's Jr. afterwards and, get something to drink before we went home. Well, her name is Jan, and Jan told me about Jesus and who he was. And she started actually telling me about the book of Revelation. And I was just like, wow, who is this Jesus? I want to know who this Jesus is. So from there, I was talking to some friends, and my girlfriend Lisa, she had a sister that went to Calvary Chapel in West Covina, California, and she would literally pick me up from my house. I lived way over here. She lived way over here. She'd pick me up and then take me back this way, past, to go to the Calvary Chapel. And she did that for Sundays. And there might have been even some Wednesdays that she would take me back and forth. This was probably in my senior year of high school. And I wasn't like someone that was into, bad stuff necessarily at all. That was, I wanted to know who was this Jesus? And so when I was 19, I was at Calvary Chapel, and I actually made that little walk, that profession, even though I felt like I had already did it, but I wanted to officially do it, I guess.
Right.
And I was 19 years old at the time. So I think it was people that had maybe, planted seeds in me. And, I think my mom did the best that she could with telling us about it. And we grew up sometimes going to church, and then sometimes we didn't. It was more going there for, Easter maybe, or a funeral or something like that. But my grandfather was a priest in the church, but he had passed away before I was born. And so there was some of that legacy still kind of like in the family, but it wasn't about having a personal relationship with your Messiah. And so at 19, I officially, did that walk down the aisle and accepted Christ then. And I've been living with him in my heart ever since. So.
See, she got it right, Dave. It's one time and it's stuck.
Well, the ending is what makes it right. How you get to the ending, everyone's got their own story.
Amen.
Yeah. My story is a little bit different. I actually grew up in a God-fearing home, but not a God-following home. And we attended church periodically, and it seemed like every church that we went to as a family, there was something wrong. And when I say there was something wrong, there were some wild things, like a pastor hitting on my mom.
Wow.
That was pretty much a game ender for my dad in going to that church.
Sure.
And so there were different things that happened throughout time and history. But I remember I had a very real conversion experience when I was 7 years old, visiting my grandparents, for a summer back in Indiana. And at the time we were living in LA. So Dad wanted to get us kids out of the city and into the country for the summer. And I went to church, and I heard a story of a family where there were a couple of people who lost their life in this traffic accident. And it just completely hit me in a way that I didn't expect. I could feel my heart beating like crazy, and I knew that I needed to go forward that Sunday and give my life to Christ. Wow. Unfortunately, that was not something that I continued in. So when I talk about Naomi's one time and it stuck experience, I'm a little bit jealous because I lived in the world, and that included, sex, drugs, fighting, all the things that I shouldn't have been doing. And it wasn't until later on, actually, when we were dating, that she invited me to go to church. And it was pretty much a condition for us dating. So I started going to church with her. And the first time I walked in there, I thought, hey, this place is kind of cool. It has like a rock band. I was used to like pipe organ in the Baptist church.
Right, right.
And, the pastor would come out and he would stand up high on a pulpit and have a robe, and everyone was in suits. And this church, people were in blue jeans and t-shirts, and the pastor came out and he was wearing chinos and a shirt with the sleeves rolled up showing his muscles and a tattoo. And he sat down on, of all things, a bar stool, and he sat there and started preaching.
Hmm.
And his testimony was great because his name was Raul Reese, and his story was powerful because he was converted sitting there watching television one day when he was lying in wait to kill his family.
Hmm.
And his wife was a believer, and she went to church with the kids, and he came home and dinner wasn't ready or whatever it was, but he was upset. So he grabbed a beer and his gun, and he sat down and he turned on the TV, and he was too lazy to get up and change the channel. And Pastor Chuck Smith just spoke right to his heart. And, they came home from church and he was a mess, just, puddle on the floor. But that's how he got saved, and the timing of him getting saved. And now he was a pastor that was preaching, and I just related to him in so many different ways that I went forward and gave my life to Christ. And unfortunately, where I'd like to say that is the end, it's not, because I think that, everyone, walks through life with a certain amount of entanglements that they bring with them throughout their walk, their Christian walk. And for me, I've had to struggle, with some of those entanglements time and again until I could find freedom. And it's really been it's been wonderful to be able to get through those things and to be completely set free in areas where I was completely taken captive. So
God is good.
Yeah.
God is
So
good.
the sanctification journey continues, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's beautiful about how God works, is that no two stories are the same. Here, like you kind of joke, Naomi was kind of like the one and done, and Michael's story is kind of still that working with fear and trembling, working your salvation with fear and trembling. And the beauty of that is each one of you is speaking to somebody in our audience. There's somebody that's going Naomi's route. There's somebody that's going Michael's route, and they're hearing that, number one, they're not alone in their journey, and number two, that there's hope no matter where they're at. So, and that's why I love sharing testimonies on this show. Is there'll be some that are almost ashamed of their testimony because there's no like deliverance from drugs, or it's like whatever story, whatever route you took, it's beautiful because it leads to the foot of the cross. So really thankful for you all sharing. Got another comment popping up. Here is Kelly Z. Preach it, Dave. Oh, wow. I might just leave that one up there for a few minutes.
Go, Kelly.
But I love hearing stories, and we've talked about your stories before as part of the audition process. But each show, I believe, there's at least one person that needs to hear each story. So Naomi was kind of the carrot on the end of the stick that Jesus used to bring you to him, and then you ended up giving her a carrot on her hand.
But I'm changed.
I think that worked out for both of us.
So how did you all meet to where she could say, well, if you want to date me, you have to come see my father?
Well, we knew each other in high school.
Okay.
And so we went to high school together. I met her when I was a freshman. She was a sophomore. We were in a class together. And so I knew who she was, and, we were friendly, but had absolutely no desires to date each other at that point.
No, he was a really nice guy. That's what I remember about Michael in high school. Nice guy. I would say, hey, I have,
So maybe I am a
car
good
wash
actor.
tickets. Would you like to buy a car wash ticket, or would you like to sponsor me for a wake-a-thon? I need to be up for 26 hours. Will you sponsor me a quarter, or whatever, quarter an hour? He would always do that. He was just a nice guy. And with his red hair, he reminded me of Richie Cunningham. So I always equated him to, because Happy Days was around that era. I equated him to, he's like Richie Cunningham, just a nice guy.
And little did you know that he'd bring about a lot of your happy days.
We're so good.
I like that.
Sunday, Monday, right?
Yep.
Tuesday, Wednesday.
So in our little group, if he's Richie Cunningham, I guess Jonathan would have to be the Fonz, right?
Who? Jonathan is the in our group?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he could be.
He's much cooler than I am, so yes.
Nice. All right. So you said you saw last week with Kelly. So we wrap up each show with 2 final segments. The final segment is always your wise counsel. So whatever advice or word of wisdom that you might want to share with somebody who wants to use their gifts for God's glory, we'll ask you about that to wrap up the show. But before we get there, we're going to do the interrogation, which is 7 random questions that otherwise wouldn't have fit in our conversation. So we'll just take turns. I'll ask, and then you guys each answer, and we'll go from there. So
okay, can we no comment if we have no comment?
If you want to.
Okay.
If you really want to deny our audience your brilliance, feel free to say no answer.
There ain't much brilliance here. That's all I'm going to say.
Stop it. That's a lie from the pit of hell. Here is the interrogation. The question number 1. What is your favorite cartoon as a kid?
Bugs Bunny.
I think I like Tweety. He was so cute.
Nice. Question number 2. What is your favorite comfort food?
Popcorn. Popcorn. Not only popcorn, Amish popcorn. Made with coconut oil or air popped. But you must have dark chocolate chips, 72%, in a little container that you could eat with it.
Ooh.
I can pass on the chocolate, but the popcorn, that's serious.
He is king of popcorn making.
I'm a popcorn fiend myself. I love butter. We also use coconut oil and sea salt sometimes.
Ah, yes. Yeah.
And Terry Hallstein says, such a cute couple.
Hey, Terry.
Hi,
Hey,
Terry. You're
Terry.
just in
Hey,
time to
Terry.
see them grilled with the interrogation.
What did you say?
All right.
I want to know, what did you just say? We're getting grilled?
I said Terry's in time to see you guys getting grilled with the interrogation.
Yes.
Question number 3. Who is your favorite superhero and why?
Captain America. Because I gave birth to Stephen Rogers. That's
Ooh. I like that.
Thank you. And you?
I've always liked Superman because Superman can fly. He's strong. He can take a punch. And if he gets hit too hard, he just flies around the world and he comes back and he whacks the other guy.
Nice.
There you go.
I'm partial to Captain Rogers myself. I just think that he's got the purest heart of all the superheroes.
Captain America?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question number 4. What keeps you up at night? And you can't say Michael snoring. That's not fair.
I put the pillow on my head.
As long as it's on your own head and not on him, we're fine.
You know, we actually have. Well, no, maybe I shouldn't say that.
You know, there are times that I think work keeps me awake. just because I've got things going through my mind. And God is great because he sometimes intervenes through my dreams to give me inspiration for solving work issues.
Nice.
Sometimes that keeps me up.
Really, honestly, if there's something that keeps me up, it would be. But you know what? While I'm awake, though, I could use it to glorify the Lord, because then I start thinking about people and things people I want to pray for. And so it comes back there. So I try not to completely waste that time while I'm sitting there waiting to fall asleep.
You see, I don't have to snore at night. I'm just trying to help to build up my wife and encourage her in her gifts to pray for people.
There you go. And if you ever snore in church, you just learn to say amen when you're done, and you just say you're speaking in tongues. Question number 5. On the other side of the coin, how do you recharge?
I think worship music for me, if I have an opportunity to sit down with my guitar and just play and worship for a period of time, that always recharges me.
I don't know. I mean, because when I read the Bible, I usually read in the morning or could be early afternoon, but I don't know that I go to that as a recharge necessarily. I don't know what recharges me. A cup of coffee? You know what? I tell you what I do love. I love people. And so I love it when I can get together with a girlfriend and we can go out and either have lunch or have coffee or something. I think that helps to fill me. So I don't know about recharging, but it fills my tank.
There you go. All right, so question number 6. If you could go back, what's one thing you'd change?
I would have taken my faith much more seriously early on and gotten into a discipleship program and just worked on refining my character and walking in holiness and faithfulness to God. Because every time I haven't done that, I've had troubles. So, and that's the one thing that if you're walking in obedience to Christ, then you're not going to have those problems. So I wish I could change and take those things back, and the people I've hurt, be able to see them not have to walk through life with those hurts.
That's good.
That's a tough question, by the way.
I'm sorry. It is an interrogation.
It is an interrogation, right?
So how about you, Naomi? You're on the hot seat.
Yeah, probably. I'd say that as my kids were growing up and I was homeschooling, probably I would change the fact that there were times that I compared our family to other families. Are we doing it right? Well, they did this, and well, should we do that? And there was that comparison going on.
Yeah.
And that's something that, hindsight, right? Afterwards, you realize, Naomi, God gave you your family, your children for you to teach, and you are quite capable, and you don't need to compare or worry or whatever, because God is doing the work. He's using you, but he's the one that's doing the work.
That's good.
So
while you were answering how you recharge, Kelly said that coffee with Kelly is the way you recharge. And
I do love coffee with Kelly, and also coffee with Terry too.
Well, Terry suggested Turkish Delight.
Oh. Well, actually, I've had Turkish Delight before. Not my favorite. I'll just say.
right, so the final question of the interrogation segment is going to be, what has been your favorite moment with Well Versed?
Gosh. I think the fact that when we can come and we can do it together, and it's an experience that we have together. So it's like we have new friends that we've made together, and we're able to laugh together and be goofy together. And that to me is a fantastic thing. So
Awesome.
Yeah, and I've really enjoyed the feeling of having taken chances and grown, and to think that, hey, this is fun. I can work with others to bring laughter, and I'm not such the stick in the mud that that I always feel like I am. I feel like she's the party girl, I'm the straight man. And I feel like that's something I've been able to see, that God can use everyone, even the straightest of people, to work effectively to bring laughter and joy to the world.
Very good. And as somebody that's done improv for counting wrestling 16 years, I just want to say you guys definitely have skills. You definitely have talent. You bring a lot to the table. And I think, Michael, one of your biggest weaknesses is you undersell yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I now know that I should never try to play your wife in a scene.
oh.
Thank you.
Especially if your toenails aren't pink, because if they were, then you could actually play me. But
that would be a lot of paint.
There's all this.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so
I will say, Dave, it really has been so much fun to be able to do something like with improv. You never know what's going to happen, and that is really cool, really fun,
and frightening,
and a little frightening, but all in a good way. So
yeah.
It's so different than anything else that you do on stage.
Yeah, absolutely. Terry says that she wants to see us sometime. So I messaged in the chat that we have our next show on October 15th. She says she'll mark that down, and then she finishes up with saying, "But Mike looks good in lederhosen."
Oh
yes, that was the toy maker who wore the lederhosen. Well, all right, so I tell you what, I'll wear the lederhosen if you wear the tights.
I've still got them. They're under my sock drawer. But it's a paid show, so we don't have to worry, or it's an unpaid show, so we don't have to worry about losing money on it.
Oh, there you go.
So as we wrap up, here is our final question. For anyone that wants to use their gifts for God's glory, what would you say your wise counsel is?
Well, I think I would say that don't be afraid to put yourself out there and to allow God to use the giftedness that He's given to you, and to always remember that that giftedness is given to glorify God. So by holding that back, then you're robbing God of the glory that He so deserves. So, walk in boldness, and walk through doors that He opens for you, and use the giftedness that He's given you.
Good deal. Good word. Anything to add, Naomi?
I would just say to, if you feel like the Lord has put something on your heart, pray about it, seek wise counsel about it. And also, if He tells you to do something, do it. Don't delay.
Yeah.
Just be obedient and do it. And then don't sit around and compare yourself to other people out there in whatever field or in whatever way that might be. And, because that could steal the joy that God has given you if you sit and play a comparison game. But God has equipped you to do a particular thing that He has given you to do. So go out and do what God has blessed you with to do.
It's a good word. And it's a good way to wrap up. We got one more comment. Kelly with 3 flames. So good, both of you. So Kelly appreciates that word.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, we love you, Kelly. We love you, Terry. And Matt, if you're watching too.
Yeah. And I think Matt did. Kelly said that was totally Matt typing as Terry. Poor Terry. So as we wrap up, I want to invite everyone that's on social media, go to His Story Productions IL on Facebook or hisstoryproductions.com. Also check out our friends at Overshadowed Theatrical Productions at Overshadowed Productions on Facebook. Like them and find their upcoming shows, auditions, and other ways to get involved. And of course, like, share, subscribe, follow all the things for Well-Versed Comedy. You can find us on all major social platforms at Well-Versed CMDY. We dropped the O and the E in comedy because Twitter is ignorant and has only a limited number of spaces you can use. So to keep everything uniform, we just dropped the O and the E. I call it, we had a great vowel movement. But at Well-Versed CMDY, and that is enough of my dad jokes for one evening. For those of you that want to come see us, next opportunity on the schedule is October 15th. We'll be back at our home church at Lombard Assembly. Good for the Soul, October 15th at 6:30 p.m. Free admission at Lombard Assembly Church on North Avenue in Lombard. So mark your calendars, bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring strangers. Just don't pick up children at Walmart that might get the cops involved.
Gosh.
We don't want that. But Michael, Naomi, thank you guys so much for all that you bring to our team and for joining us here tonight.
Thank you
We're
so
so glad to
much,
join you.
Dave,
Thanks,
for having
Dave.
us. God bless
All right.
you. God bless y'all, whoever's watching.
All right, we'll see y'all next week. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you then.